So from a heat point of view, from a hot summer's day, keeping you cooler, this thing gets a massive thumbs up. And I'm not kidding. Hello and welcome back to MavT UK, and welcome to a very in-depth review of the Trakker Tempest RS Vapour Shield. Why have I done that? It's just a Vapour Shield, is it? Now, does it do what it claims to do? I've had a look, I've had it out of the bag, and I've got some surprising answers for you, and it isn't all bad. So stick with it. Let's see if your opinion ends up the same as mine. Now, what you don't know is my better half is behind the camera sunbathing, and if she keeps messing me about, I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to show everybody. I don't believe that Trakker have actually sold this very well at all. I think the advertising for it has been pretty poor. You can see a couple of adverts on Facebook, maybe YouTube, which last about 1 minute 38 seconds, some shorter, but I haven't seen anything longer. Now, they don't do it justice. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And it sort of stood out to me and I thought, well, that's exactly what I wanted. But I'm not quite sure if I like the look of what they're selling. Let's go back to the winter when I said this. One of the things that I will say about this is that once you close all those windows, it is dark in there. But if you are in there during the day and it is pouring down, then you are going to need light to see what you're doing, because you're just not going to be able to see in there. Even though it's got a plastic door, see-through door, it still won't let enough light in for you to do what you're doing. So you would definitely need light pretty much most of the time if you're working inside that bivvy, maybe even your head torch. So let's have a look at some of the things I'm going to be talking about today. Firstly, its purpose and what it's designed to do. Why did I feel it could come in handy for me? We'll be taking a look at all its features and having a look at some of its design. We'll have a close look at the materials, and we'll have a close look at how the whole thing goes together. We'll also be looking at the issues of condensation and how to reduce them. Now, some of them might not be so obvious, and some of you might be making the same mistake over and over again and not realize you're doing it. So knowing a lot about condensation will help you stay drier in your bivvy. We'll also be taking a look at the insulation properties. Now then, just look at this. I have to say, in all honesty, within 5 minutes of putting this up, the amount of radiation from the sun between the layers has reduced dramatically, making this almost comfortable to sit out in a day like today. And it's one of the hottest days of the year so far. That has impressed me, it really has. This thing gets a massive thumbs up. And I'm not kidding. We'll also be taking a look at the lighting, and we'll also be looking at this supposedly mosquito repellent light, or anti-mosquito repellent light. And I'll be telling you some scientific facts about whether light actually works for mosquitoes, what does attract them and what doesn't. Finally, we'll be looking at how we can pack this thing away. Yes, you can keep it in the bivvy, but there are things you need to be careful of before you do so. So before we get into the nitty-gritty and all the science behind it all, I'm gonna ask you to like and subscribe to this channel. The reason I do this sort of stuff is because you don't have to, and I try and find out the good, honest truth about what's actually going on and whether what you're getting is value for money. So this is the box it came in. As you will be able to see, from left to right, you have 6 color options, 6 brightness settings, thermal reflective lining, 171 LEDs. Now that will reduce depending on the size of your Vapour Shield. Mine is a 200, so if you've got the smaller one, you won't get so many LEDs. A remote control and a 16K rechargeable battery with up to 8 to 88 hours of runtime. Nitelife. Well, I was quite surprised at the box actually, and I don't do unboxings, but I was surprised at the quality of the box and how it came. Your Charger came in that with its lead, and the Vapour shield came in that. So it's packaged quite well. That does mean that some money has been spent on the packaging, so they do care a little bit. But packaging is quite important nowadays. In the corner there you will see a pocket with another control sticking out of it. Now that control comes in its own pocket, so the pocket for the battery is actually on the Vapour shield, but you will notice I've dropped it in that pocket there because there is a lead long enough to do so if you wish, and potentially go onto a table should you wish also. So if you had a larger battery pack stuck on the table somewhere behind you near your bivvy or on your bivvy table, then that lead will get to it and you can run it straight from your larger power pack. Point to note, you can use any power pack, you don't have to use the one they supplied. At the back you will notice a red toggle. As I zoom out you will notice 2 pockets, and as I zoom out even more you will notice a line running straight through the top of the bivvy. Now that's how it goes. So the little tabs that actually hold up the inner capsule, if you was to use the inner capsule, also support this screen. Now what you will notice, if you use the Vapour shield, it removes the tabs. So with the Vapour shield you cannot use your inner capsule. So it's either one or the other. We might be getting a bit of glare here and there, but I'm trying to give you the best look of this canopy that I can. And I am lying on my back on the grass. There we go. The sun is beaming straight down on top of this canopy. It is remarkably chilled in here. I'm very, very shocked at how that does its job. I really am. So as you can see, it is getting full whack from the sun. There's only the back there that's in a little bit of shade. The rest of it, the top, is caking in sunlight. Now yes, I do have my skull cap, and you can see the void underneath there. Now when I get to that point I'll explain how all that works. So if you didn't know already, what is the purpose of this Vapour shield? It's actually multi-purpose. One, to keep you cooler in the sun, and 2, to keep you warmer in winter. Now how is it supposed to keep you warmer in winter? Well, if you looked on the box you would have noticed some little silver round circles. Now took some pictures of that earlier, so let's have a closer look at those pictures. Now they are simply either sprayed or painted on, probably rolled on by big sheets of material and cut into size afterwards, but they are supposed to be heat reflective spots which will push back any heat back down in winter and keep heat out in summer. Now that is actually working in summer. In winter, if it works in summer, it will work in winter. But the material is polyester. It's very thin and you can nearly see through it. Look at this picture. So it's not a thick fabric, it is very light fabric, and it has to be light because it's suspended from the ceiling. And what they obviously didn't want to do was put too much weight up there and start sagging things, and things starting to sag down onto you, reducing the head height. Now I've probably lost about 1.5 inches at most in head height, and I accept that for the benefits that's given me right now. So I don't mind the fact that I'm now a little bit shorter in the height. If I was to hang the inner pod, I'm not sure, or inner capsule, I'm not sure what sort of distance that hangs, but this is about 30 to 40 mil off the top of the canopy. There must be a gap, because that's how this thing's work. Now, when we talk about warm, how much warmer? I mean, how much are we talking about? Are we talking 15% warmer? 20% warmer? 30% warmer? How much benefit is that going to give me? Well, I can assure you, well, it ain't going to be a lot. I can tell you that for nothing. Now, I've read through on some of Trakker's paperwork on the internet and in the box it comes with, and I've read somewhere that they say it only increases the radiant value by 3%, and that's not a lot. And how do they get that measurement? Well, I don't know is the truth. I don't know how they got that measurement. I do know what vapor shields and vapor barriers do on the construction industry, and they can increase your thermal values by 3%, but that's a completely different material and used for a completely different purpose. This is a polyester fabric with some silver dots on it. I guarantee you it's not been tested to the high end that the thermal properties of insulation and those other materials and vapor barriers and vapor shields, I guarantee it's not been tested to that degree. It won't have done. So in the construction industry, vapor shields and vapor barriers, they offer up to 3% better value of thermal property within your R value, and R value is a calculation of heat loss for a building, and that's where they get it from. So where Trakker have got their 3% from, I don't know. That would take quite a considerable amount of money for them to do that sort of research. 3% isn't a lot anyway. So I can't tell you whether this works in the winter or not. Not yet. Any material has to reflect heat to a tiny degree for it to be classed as thermal. So in other words, it's very similar to your duvet togs. If you have a tog 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 25, whatever the tog ratings are, the lowest is the crappiest, the highest is the best. Now this is a very thin layer of material. The thermal properties is going to be very, very light, very, very minimal, but it will trap air, and that may be the key. So for Trakker to say that this has thermal benefits in the winter is probably correct, because it will increase, and therefore, yes, they're not lying. But how much, nobody knows. I'm telling you, nobody knows. Anyway, moving on. So one of its claims then is that it reduces condensation, and it's very important you understand what condensation is, because if you don't, you can make a serious mistake. Now, if you look down behind me, you will see grass on the floor. Whether it's grass, stones, chippings, bark, whatever, it makes no difference. If you put your bivvy on the floor without a ground sheet, any moisture in the floor will come up into your bivvy and then attach itself to any cold spots. That's how it works. So how is condensation formed? Well, it can be, as I said previously, it can come from the ground. It comes from your breath. Every time you breathe out, you're releasing moisture into the air. If you've got a nice warm bivvy on the inside, or warmer on the inside, and it's colder on the outside of your bivvy, it will attach itself to the wall of the bivvy and start to condensate. And those microscopic water droplets will bond together, form bigger water droplets, and instead of it being breath that you can see, it becomes solid water droplets, and that's the problem. How do you compensate, and how do you reduce the amount of condensation? Now the thing is, no matter what tent you're in or where you are, at some times of the year you cannot avoid it. No matter if you've got 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layers, you cannot avoid it. Every time you breathe out, moisture will attach itself to the lining of the thing that you are in, tent or bivvy. It makes no difference. But ventilation will certainly help. So by having the windows open, no condensation will form in this bivvy at all. It just won't happen. Having the door open, no condensation will form. But the more you start to batten down the hatches, the more you close yourself in, and the more, let's say if you had no ground sheet and it was a April's evening or something like that, or a winter's evening, and you were battened in, there would be condensation everywhere by the time you got up in the morning. And if your bed was touching the side of the bivvy, your probably side of your bed's wet too, because the water have run down the sides of walls of the bivvy and onto your bed. So you can't stop it. So even in winter, ventilation is the key. But by putting another layer in, like this is, it reduces the temperature difference and stops the condensation forming as much. It doesn't stop it completely. It minimizes it, but it doesn't stop it. And you've got to remember that. When you breathe out at night, you're breathing out a lot of moisture, and that moisture has to go somewhere. Now, whether it goes onto the material of the polyester, or whether it bypasses that and then forms up on the inside behind the polyester lining, which is your bivy skin, then that can happen, and does happen too. So you won't stop it, but you can reduce it, and that is what that does. It does reduce it, and it also stops the moisture dripping on you if in really bad conditions. If you've been out fishing in really bad humid conditions, you know how much water can form in and around you, and it's not nice at all. Even my Avid HQ, that used to get it on the outer skin, and you've got to be careful when packing it away, and I'll come on to that later. Now, I did say I don't think Trakker has advertised this very well at all, because all they've done is turn this in to one of these. It shows the lights everywhere, it shows different lights and different this and big blue lights out of the window. You know as well as I do, light discipline is very important when you're carping. There's nothing worse than having someone across the water flashing their head torch over at you every 5 minutes just because they can. They're not catching fish, they're not bringing fish in, they're not taking pictures, they're just messing around with the torches. It's lit up like a Christmas tree over there, and it can be quite annoying. So light discipline is very, very important. And every time you see a picture of this thing being advertised, all you're getting is the windows up, the doors off, and this light shining through, whether it be red, blue, green or whatever, and they show you this big light. And that's a complete opposite of what they need to be doing. Now, going back to my comments earlier when I said I needed light in this bivvy, I think this is what this thing's perfect for. I think this is what it's perfect for. When you close into this bivvy and it's pouring down with rain, and it can be any time of year, you batten down the hatches, you close down the door, you cannot see a bleeding thing in here, but you turn that on and you can. And I think that's absolutely perfect. And don't forget, most people fish with doors on their bivvies anyhow, and if it is raining, you're not going to see this big massive blue glowing bivvy in the distance. You won't see it. It's not that bright. So they've done themselves an injustice. They've tried to show this bivvy all lit up looking really lovely, but the opposite effect has had, where people are ridiculing and taking the mickey out of it and calling it a disco, Christmas trees, and you name it, people are saying it, and it's not doing it justice, because the lights aren't that bright. So they didn't think about that one very much, I don't think. I'm not quite sure why they did that, because it's going to turn people off. People aren't going to want to buy this, because people will think that they're going to get the mickey taken out of them. And there's absolutely no reason to be taking the mickey out of it, because it's working in the heat already. So you take the mickey if you want. I'm happy sat in here. I'm not even sweating anymore. Well, maybe a bit. So yeah, I don't think they got that bit right. And it's a shame, because it works. And I will show you later tonight what I'll do, because it's up in my garden. I will leave things as they are. When the sun goes down later, I'll come out, we'll turn it on, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Bearing in mind, if it was all battened down, all the doors were closed, the windows were closed, you wouldn't see it anyway. Now, while we're on the subject of lights, these lights are classified as an IP67. I don't know what you know about IP ratings. IP stands for Ingress Protection, and the number that follows it, one is for dust and one is for moisture. So this one is IP67. Now 6 is the highest form of dust protection, therefore it's completely sealed and no dust is going to get in. 7 is the waterproof ability of the item. So 6, 7 is this number. The maximum number you can get on waterproof ability is 9. So we're pretty close. So basically 6, 7 means no dust is going to get in, and you can hold this vapor shield under a meter's worth of water for 30 minutes before it will do any damage to it. Well, I've got a pigeon on the bivvy. Probably didn't see it because it's camouflaged. Wish it was a cat. So you're never going to be in a position where this thing is a meter underwater. And if it was, your battery pack and everything, well, they would be knackered anyway. So although that's the LED rating, it doesn't conform to the battery pack and the electrics that come out of the LEDs. That's only the LED lighting. So IP67 is pretty good. If it was IP69, it would be the best. That's how good it is. Now, while we're on the subject of lighting, we have to discuss the Mosquito repellent light, which is that one. And if that didn't come out too clear, I'll show you a picture of it. What is the Mosquito repellent light? Because if one existed, why don't we know about it already? Why aren't they used in Africa? What's all that about? What is mosquito repellent light? Because until I'd seen that, I didn't know it existed. So I researched it and I went and had a look to see if I could find what light repels mosquitoes. And do you know what? It doesn't exist. So mosquitoes aren't necessarily attracted to light. However, there are certain lights that reduces the amount of attractant to other insects. So if, say for example, you've got yourself a blue light on, yeah, you'll get every insect in on you within seconds. If you put a white light on, as you know, with your head torch, every single insect with you in seconds. But if you notice, since LEDs have been brought out, well, some of you might only know LEDs, but since LEDs have been brought out, that there's a lot more insects around your head when you turn your head torch on at night. Years ago, when we used to use the old glass bulb, there didn't appear to be so many, and there is a reason for that. Is because the old glass bulb was an orange light, and that particular form of light is least attractive to insects. So the warm light, they're not so keen on. It doesn't repel them, it doesn't fend them off, it's just it doesn't attract so many. And that's the truth behind the light. So although this is saying it is a anti-mosquito light, what it is actually saying to you is it's a light that doesn't attract so many bugs. And that's true. So are they being false in what they're saying? No. But remember, mosquitoes do not really go for light. They go for carbon dioxide, which you breathe out. They go for sweat. They go for lactic acid that you've been releasing through hard work. It's like ringing the dinner bell to them, and that's what they go for. And that's why they bite, because the females need to feed on your blood to enable them to reproduce, and that's how the system works. So it's your breath, carbon dioxide, which causes the mosquitoes to find you in the first place. Your sweat, the acids and smells that you release from hard work, that also does it. So those are the things that actually attract. If you've got one of these bug zappers with the little luminous thing on it, you won't find many mosquitoes that actually fly into it because they're not really attracted to it. But other insects are. So they're not really false claiming everything. Technically, an orange light is least attractive to insects. So it's not false advertising. They've just not made that bit clear. We've had a look at many things about how this thing is made, how it's put together, the material it's made out of, whether it works or not. We can only tell at this moment that it does work in heat. I can guarantee you that, because I'm still sat here. Well, how is it best used? Do you take it in and out every time you want to use it? I'm going to say no. Once it's in, it stays in, and that's it, it's done. How long will it last, the longevity? Well, if they've gone too far as an IP67 quality of the LEDs, then that gives me confidence it will last a bit longer. I have seen complaints about the battery pack not charging very well. Well, if that's the case, there must be some sort of warranty, 12-month warranty to it. You know, we all know that in 12 months we don't go fishing that much, so it's not really a fair warranty. And it also doesn't show a lot of faith in your equipment if you only give 12 months warranty to something. So if you had a bivvy like this, I would expect at least 3 years warranty on it, but they don't. It's 12 months. It doesn't really install a lot of confidence in something like this. If after 12 months and half a dozen uses, it's going to start falling apart, and they're going to say, well, it's not our fault, it's how you've done it. That doesn't impress me. So once it's in, it's in. How long it's going to last being folded away with the bivvy, I couldn't tell you. Don't know, and neither do you. So the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to wait till the sun goes down. We're going to come back out into the garden. I'll make sure the garden lights are off, and we'll see just exactly how bright and how annoying, remembering our light pollution and our light discipline, how annoying this can actually be to other people on the bank. And by then I'll have the door fitted, and I'll prove my point 100% that if used correctly, this thing isn't a drama at all. Oh, and one other thing while I'm on it, the multi-coloured lights, why have we got different colour lights? Because it's an LED, why wouldn't you? So I am now about 10 meters away from the bivvy. I've got the blue light on and it's on full whack. So the way this is working right now, on the left you've got the windows. I'm going to go to white light. That's white light. Green. That's mozzie. That's yellow. And that's red. Let's move the camera right opposite the door. Green light. Blue. Mozzie. Yellow. Red. That's 10 meters max. I'm now going to put on a Ridge Monkey style light inside the bivvy. Downsight brighter. This is from the back of the bivvy. Green, mozzie, yellow, Ridge Monkey. So now that I'm actually inside the bivvy, it actually affords quite a lot of light. Now I can see in and around this bivvy quite well, and I can actually check out bits and bobs. No detailed work. I probably wouldn't be able to do rigs. It's not a light. So let's change it over to a different light to see if there's any one of these colors would enable me to do my rigs in this light. There's your white light. So yeah, I could do rigs with that. I can see perfectly well. So that works perfectly. Let's try some of the other colors then. Let's go to blue. Red. Oh, that is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. That's yellow, apparently. Let's try the mozzie, shall we? There we go. It's quite... See how warm that is? See how warm that light is? Very reminiscent of the old bulb lights that we used to get on the torches. Pretty much the same colour. So the warm light is a much different light altogether. Yellow's still a bit sharp, and white is pretty good, to be fair. Now let's have a look from this side at the lighting. Green. Now that is on its maximum bright too, so that will give me apparently 88 hours of that brightness. If I go back onto white, I probably wouldn't be able to do my rigs in that light, but if I turn it up, I can. So that's it, I've turned the lights off now. All I've got going is the Ridge Monkey light over there in the corner. I think I proved my point. I think I've shown quite clearly that the light that it emits isn't massive, it isn't glaring, and it isn't a pain in the butt to other people. You could hardly see it with a camera just 10 meters away, and that's my hedge over there as far as I could get back. So I strongly believe that this really isn't going to be an issue for other people on the bank, and that was with all the doors wide open, windows wide open, everything. I don't see a problem with it. You can take the mickey, people are going to, that's absolutely fine. But at least now you would have seen the Vapour Shield in as much detail as anybody could show you. I think it's great, I like it, I'm glad I got it. It fits in this bivvy perfectly, and it's now going to stay in here until it breaks. So it's a massive, massive thumbs up from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. There was a lot of information to take on board, and most of you probably knew a lot of that already. But my aim was to try and bring everybody up to speed, to try and prevent people from thinking that this is something it isn't, because I thought it was. I thought it was too bright, too horrible, and too horrific for what I needed it, and it turns out it's not. It's literally bang on. And yes, in the middle of the night I can do my rigs using that lighting system, and for me that works. So until next time, next video we've got coming up should be the Blogger Social. It's only a couple of weeks away now. So until next time, bye bye, thank you.